anybody new coming in here, I think we have we have a good bunch of people joined us already. So I'm sure you are all wondering what's the Russian words that I know. Well, the first ones that I learned was "Ishora Spashalusta." I used to be an athlete in my youth, so I remember the coach. The first thing they always told me that "Ishora Spashalusta." So that was one of those things. And then obviously as a Finn coming to Russia, one of the most important things in the beginning obviously was that "Kolka stoi butilki vodka." So I think kind of like with those few things, one could come quite far. However, we have not talked about my Russian vocabulary, but kind of like a little bit looking into trends and also kind of like how do we see the world developing currently. I would say that it's kind of like a very, very extremely exciting times for us right now. At the same time, obviously I've prepared here stuff, but kind of like I think the best thing would be kind of like if so that I don't just explain to what I think is interesting, but please do ask questions through the chat, and I will try to reply to them as much as possible, because through that we can get better feeling for also what your questions are. Sound is too bad for Elena. That's too bad. Oh, Kiev joined in. How is everything in Kiev? Calmed down at all, or still very, very busy? Okay, I suppose we won't get the answer from Olga pretty soon. So let me just very briefly first introduce myself. So my name is Petri Kokko, and as you can probably hear from my accent and see from my name, I'm from Finland. However, I've been already for years now working more as abroad. I've been with Google for about 2.5 years, and now here in Germany for about 2.5 years. I'm currently here in charge and responsible for all our retail activities in this country. So it means both kind of like retail advertisers, but also kind of like retail products and so on. So that's kind of like the scope I have currently here. I have a team across Germany as well as in Dublin then that supports me. Before I came to Germany, I was for 2 years in Mountain View, California, in our headquarters. And I was responsible for all our learning and development globally. So I had a team across the world, from Sydney to Sao Paulo, and more or less kind of like the question was how can we help our teams more or less stay up with the increasingly rapid change that we're going through, and it is a big challenge for all of us, because like the truth is that I don't think any one of us could think of the speed of change that we're going through and what we're seeing currently. I was also the country manager in Finland and in Sweden in the beginning, and I've also, before joining Google, I was the general manager for Nike in my country, and the reason why I was in Russia in my youth was more as kind of I was a professional athlete for 18 years, and spent also quite some time at those years over in Russia. If you want to know more about me, why don't you just Google me? I suppose that would be the best way to go forward. Are you still awake there? Say hi in the chat if you're there. Very good. All right, excellent. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, as I said, about kind of like the trends. Now when we're talking about trends, we're more or less talking about what's happening now and tomorrow. So we're not talking about trends now for the next 5 or 10 years. I would say that would be too difficult to try to even predict, and it could be really, really hard to say. However, what we're seeing today and how we feel like that is kind of like changing things as we go forward. At the same time, obviously, it's kind of like a business-related, business contextual business kind of like look into more or less kind of like what where we're heading and what we're doing. So three big megatrends that we're more or less kind of like we've seen in the press and so on all the time: online, mobile, and social. And kind of like the big question here is that it's like are these the trends that we're going through, or is it anything else? Our opinion is that it's neither online, it's not mobile, and it's not social. But let me explain to you what I mean exactly by this. I thought I'd go through these a few trends and then a few kind of like approaches on how we see things developing and how do we approach it also from a leadership and from a learning perspective and a leadership and like a strategic leadership perspective going into these different things. So online. Is online the future? Here we see more as kind of like the share of online travel sales as a percentage of total global travel sales going up in just kind of like the last few years, and where we're more heading. This is a similar curve, obviously, that we're seeing everywhere. Almost more as kind of like a good third, almost half of the sales already today in travel actually happens online. So is online the future? Well, in our opinion, it's not really the future. That is kind of like when a lot of retailers even come to me and say, you know what, now Petri, we're concentrating on now, it's like we need to put up a good web store. My opinion, usually my response to them is that, you know what, you're 2-3 years late. There's no such thing as online versus offline any longer. Let me explain to you closer. So we all see that all the time. People go online in store. So thanks to smartphones and so on, most of the people who have smartphones today have actually already also done research while they are in the store. And here we also obviously kind of like the advanced ones we're seeing kind of like how you different kind of in-store discounts based on more or less kind of like how people interact with phones. So we're all familiar with more or less kind of like the showrooming effect that retailers are seeing today. People go into a store and then they do a search there, and in the worst case scenario, they also actually sell from there. That's or buy from there. I mean, that's why we're seeing that we need to today make sure that these retailers kind of like are competitive both online and offline, as well as use these opportunities. Perhaps you don't have the full inventory in your store. Why don't you help the client then more or less to buy that inventory for example, online with you, or maybe they want to buy it from now and there, but they don't want to carry it home, so you more or less can kind of like carry it, more or less kind of like have them sent over. So again, the mixture of online and offline is increasing rapidly. We're seeing it also the other way around. Kind of like big retailers today are looking into ways of how they can more or less move into the online. At the same time, big online players like the Zalandos and so on are testing more or less kind of like physical retail space. So we're seeing kind of like the traffic or more or less kind of like the developments going both directions. There's another kind of like a way of looking at more or less kind of like how online and offline more or less is coming together. This Tesco, they decided to expand in Asia, and what they most did that in order to get as quickly as possible a footprint, that they had these billboards where more or less with the QR code you could more or less kind of like buy your product and just order them with your smartphone. A wonderful way again to more or less mixing kind of like an offline world with an online world and get the best out of both of them. TV. This is kind of like the very traditional way of consuming entertainment. However, we've seen there's a huge change there as well. More is kind of like 4/5 of all the TV viewers today are actually browsing and using another device at the same time as they're watching television. This is obviously a huge opportunity also, kind of like for advertisers as well as for program managers and directors, more or less to understand how this works. When I studied, I did my master's at the Swedish School or Hanken School of Economics in Helsinki, And one of the things that I did was I did my thesis around interactive television. And at that time, we thought that the interactivity would come kind of like through the set-top box. Well, what we've seen today is that the interactivity actually comes through the second screen. So either through the tablet or a smartphone, and kind of like that more or less interaction between online and offline in this case is absolutely crucial for now and in the future. What we're seeing here also is that, for example, Google searches. The moment an advertiser shows their ad on TV, usually there's a huge spike in Google searches. So it's absolutely critical for that advertiser to make sure that kind of like they are covered, for example, in search at the same time as the TV advertising goes through. We're always connected. Here we see kind of like the charge for desktop, tablet, and mobile on the usage, and it really starts by kind of like seeing kind of like how tablet and mobile picks up here in the morning commute. Then during the day, it's mostly desktop. But then we go into the evening, we clearly see kind of like how mobile and especially tablets are picking up. So over 90% of tablet users actually at home. So for example, we at Google, we believe that tablet is more like a desktop replacement than actually a mobile device. So we're talking more about the high-end smartphones, but then kind of like tablets for us is more as kind of like a desktop device. 70% of American. You mean I think you probably this I think was based on a US based survey. So but we're seeing I've seen similar kind of numbers from other countries as well. So more it's kind of like people do use these devices all the time together. So this was an American survey. However, the same development happens everywhere. And we kind of like, if we're looking here at more, for example, at the tablet usage, it's pretty clear that it's at the same time as we're doing something else. And even kind of like new developments about more or less kind of like combining this is even when we eat. This is a smart fork that apparently, I haven't seen this, but it was interesting because this is apparently more or less measures how much you are eating. So and then there is an app, obviously, that more or less kind of like where you can measure what you have consumed during the day. I think we will see a lot of different things like this going forward. At the same time, obviously, this is pretty clear, especially going into more younger people, that anybody uses these devices. And smartphone is really the thing to have, and so it's more or less kind of like there isn't such a thing. And even kind of like what we see with a lot of statistics is that you would think that, for example, over 60-year-old people, that what's the usage there. However, there we see the biggest growth currently. So I think it's just a question, or we believe that it's just a question of time when more or less kind of like everyone is using one of those devices, and obviously we're also using them everywhere. So it's if we looked at the paper before, we all know what we're looking at today when we are doing important stuff. Mobile. Any changes in overall trend of using smart devices? Yeah, you're right. That picture could rather be a tab and or a smartphone. I think that's there was this is nothing to do with this, or partly to do with this, that there was a study that showed that smartphones are actually really dirty. So don't touch someone else's smartphone. Changes in overall trend using smart devices. We're just seeing that the kind of like the amount of usage is increasing rapidly. So that's clearly one of the usages that we're seeing, and and clearly kind of like the high-end smartphones and the tablet usage is a little bit different. Or due to the CIA scandal, I think it's too early to tell. Currently, we're not really seeing a difference there, but kind of like I think time will tell how things will develop there. We saw today there was even kind of like questions that are kind of like using Angry Birds, that someone would be following that. I don't know what kind of information you get out of that, but I suppose someone can, using big data, do some kind of analysis on that too. So mobile. Is mobile then the big trend going forward? I've talked about Google stats in the EU when we speak about the devices. Yes, mostly my stats are from the EU. I will tell you then approximately where those other stats come from if they're not from the EU, but you can assume they usually are from the EU. So mobile. Is mobile the future? If we're looking at kind of like the stats here again, this is kind of like the latest stats also from strategy analytics and so on. I think this is a slide that Mary Meeker has shown many times. Mary Meeker, I'll put it in here in the chat. If you're not aware of her more or less kind of like presentations, look them up online, or kind of like make a search for them, because she's very she has very good statistics on the development. Interesting here is more as kind of like how smartphones and tablets are really kind of like taking off, and kind of like there is hardly any development in the personal computing. However, we believe that there's really no such thing as thank you for the link for kind of like the mobile. Because the question is kind of like what is mobile and what's not. I'll just kind of like well, here we have different kind of mobiles in a way, but the question is kind of like what is and where are we heading. At the same time, what we see is that 80% of the tablet usage, as I said earlier, happens at home on the couch. So more as kind of like our tablets, mobile devices or not. At the same time, kind of like borders are everything. I think I love this picture because like it goes from kind of like a 3-point-something inch device to here a 7-inch device. But if you can move it on to both directions, so if you look at kind of like smartwatches from Samsung today, I think they have a 1-inch kind of like screen, and you could go up to 50, 60, 100-inch screens on the other end. So more or less there is a size for more or less kind of like or there is every size currently available, and just a question of kind of like where you want to be placing. This one I already mentioned. I think the picture here says it all. Kind of like here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more or less devices among two people that more or less kind of like all are connected, and this is very much the future that we're seeing. Also, kind of like the development, so that people actually use they use kind of like multiple screens for doing perhaps even the same task. So starting in the morning commute, looking for travel destinations in the sun when the snow is pouring back on you, and at the same time perhaps going back into a desktop at the office, and perhaps even doing the purchase over your tablet in the evening. In the past, this has been really difficult to track because, like in a tracking sense, it would look like 3 different users. There are some tracking technologies today where we could more or less track the whole attribution model, so that we could understand that actually these things are happening sequentially. So and through that, again, if I'm a marketeer, it would be absolutely critical for me to understand that I do have to more or less be available in these different devices, perhaps even with a little bit of a different message. So kind of like looking into mobile, what's the next step there? Well, obviously, we believe very strongly that, and it's not only just we, but kind of like wearable technology is something that will very, very quickly be kind of like the next step. Google Glass is something that we've been looking into very much ourselves. However, there are a lot of other wearable technologies too. I just heard that from the ISPO, the sports fair in Munich that was beginning of this week. One of the products that were awarded there with the biggest innovation was actually kind of like a smart underwear. So smart kind of like underpants, more or less. So and they would tell how your muscles are working, and are you pushing enough, or do you need rest, and so on. So I think kind of like this development we're seeing is going everywhere. Let me show you a little video. I hope this now works. It doesn't. Maybe it works here. Okay.
Hang out with the flying club. Cool photos of microphones. You ready?
Right then. Okay, Glass, take a picture.
Did you all see that? Say hi if you saw that. And heard the music as well. Yes. Yes, very good. Yeah, I know. I need that too. Yeah. So the point more or less here is that we believe that it's really a question of kind of like technology can't go into get into our way. So when we're doing different stuff, we want to be kind of like connected. We want to have the possibilities to do different things, but we don't want to be more or less so kind of like it just needs to be there when we need it. If this is the future, time will tell. This is a big bet that we're doing, and there will probably be a lot of different other ways with wearable technologies that we'll see in the future going on. Let me just see where do my slides now continue. Seems like that's the same slide. I need to probably start here. Any questions at this time? As the slides are getting back there. Nope, no questions. Not yet. Do you agree with me with the mobile notion, or do you feel like mobile will kind of like still be, or kind of like it's obviously kind of like mobile is a big thing, but do you think kind of like wearable glasses and wearable computing or glasses will take off? A bit regarding big data issue and lots of information not user due to these changes. Where can you buy Google Glass? You can't buy it yet, but hopefully we could buy them very, very soon. Mobile is a big thing, but not everyone can afford it. Yes, not yet. My thing is though that kind of like the prices of mobile and these technologies are going very, very quickly and very rapidly down. So we're seeing already very, very big growth in many areas and more kind of like poor areas. So yes, I agree with you. I think many of these technologies are still very, very expensive. But if you consider what the price is today and what it was just a few years ago, I think we've already seen a huge change there. Big data, well, $1,500 is for Google Glass, but it's just kind of like technologies in general. And I don't think $1,500 will be the price of Google Glass when they actually start selling them. So we'll see. Will the growth be constant? I think it's a good question. I think in general, if you look at technologies, the growth usually isn't constant. So we see bursts of growth, and then it might slow down significantly before there comes maybe a new technology. Then there's a boost again. So I think we're going through some extremely fast changing kind of like times. How long that will last is a good question. But kind of like, at least right now, it's very, very exciting to be in this industry because of this very, very rapid change going on. Let me come back to your question about big data a little bit later. But let me just kind of like, because I think that's a topic that we can use some more time even on if needed. Social was another area that I was kind of like. So is social more or less the future? Is social the next big thing? I think kind of like Facebook today has 1.3 billion users. Here are some of the usage from our product. I think Twitter currently lies at somewhere around 300 million users. Instagram 100 million users, and so on. So it is pretty amazing how quickly this change have gone. However, we believe that social really is an old human need. So it's not the time of social. It's really, well, you see already kind of like the more or less kind of like the setup of how I'm presenting. But more or less kind of like we believe that social will be a part of everything we're doing. I will look into that link, Dimitri, in a while. So social, an old human need, and more or less kind of like what we're seeing is that social more or less kind of like will more or less enhance everything we do. Is that then search, video, mobile display offers local. A map, for example, I think is much more interesting to see what are restaurants that my friends go to and think are interesting than just get someone randomly tell me what's in. So if I come to Moscow, I probably don't want to just have a look at kind of like what the guides say, but it's like get your input of where to go. The same thing with video, with search. Search will more and more become also social, that we actually get input from what we're doing as we go forward. Do I need to take a look at this picture now, just to know what you're discussing? Yes. I think it's partly that. However, I do think we do see a lot of more or less kind of like also usage of kind of like good usage of big data. Let me just get back to that a little bit later. Competitors, their products. I think also there the question is you mean what's done in Russia around big data? I think kind of like also if I look at kind of like the I don't actually know the Russian market too well, so there's not much I can talk about that. But I do see that kind of like social is really going through also a little bit more. It's kind of like many of our competitors through everything they do, because we see that it's actually a very, very important part of the stuff we're doing. And also social is going in all areas. Do you know moves count, guys? Just say yes or no if you know. The no, you don't know. Well, no. All right. Well, moves count. I'll show you. I have here a watch like this. Can you see my watch? Yes. So this is a Suunto watch, and moves count is I usually use this as an example because I just love my watch, and I love kind of like the things they're doing here. So here, just as an example, this is all kind of like what's being measured by my watch more. This is when I'm back in Helsinki. Here, down here in the center of Helsinki is our Google office, and here in, close to the airport in Vantaa, that's where I live when I'm in Helsinki. And this is my bike ride to work. So heart rate 150, 15.65 kilometers, an average of close to 20 calories. You name it, it has it. And obviously, I can share this all with my community, with my friends, and so on. So just another example of how more is kind of like social comes into everything we do. So just a heart rate monitor in the past would have not done a big deal, but now kind of like I can kind of like take that information and put it into a service like this and share it with my friends, and also kind of like through that use different things of developing it. Same time to say that I think that Suunta hasn't really understood, in my opinion, how much value they actually have into what they're doing, kind of like and the data they're getting here. Do you have a comparison to winter biking? Well, kind of like obviously I can look at kind of like when I've been doing my biking, and I can compare the same routes and so on. So what we're doing. So yes, when I've been there, I have been winter biking as well. I have spikes on my bike to go forward. But it's just an example for you to see how social more or less comes into all areas of what we're doing, and also obviously in all places. This is a Samsung refrigerator with kind of like a screen on it, and then you more or less kind of like you have the possibility to get all your different both social and pictures and weather and so on, obviously on the screen there. There's nothing special today in a way, but kind of like just shows kind of like how it will be in everywhere. High heart rate, yeah, I know. That was I always have pretty high heart rates. My feeling is that I don't really get anything out of it if I don't have a high heart rate. But you know, that's just me doing it. That was the fridge. So more or less kind of like what we're trying to say is they know like stop. Let me just get a little bit of water. So perhaps kind of like if the message what I'm trying to kind of like get through to you is more or less don't stop thinking of online versus offline. Online will be offline and offline will be online. And the way to more or less develop a business today is more or less to understand how online, what kind of a role online plays in the whole sales funnel and more or less also in the service part, etc. of your business. So don't think separately because you can never be competitive then with your costs and so on. Mobile, yes, it's a big thing. At the same time, we do have to understand that there will be a huge kind of like variety of devices from different sizes, really kind of like from smartphones or smart watches to big screens and everything in between. So we really kind of have to prepare to understand kind of like how that works. At the same time, really understanding also kind of like the local aspect of a device that you have in your pocket or on your wrist or you carry it on your head all the time. And also kind of like that social models isn't really anything new in itself, but really kind of like the question is how can we put in some social into every aspect of what we're doing and every aspect of our business. It could very well be, for example, that we do on Twitter for customer service, so that our users, our customers would respond to questions immediately. That's, for example, a wonderful way of using social, for example, in customer service. Do you guys agree on this? Do they make sense? Yep. Yes. I do see a few yeses here from various people. I'm happy happy to see your yeses here, by the way, even if it feels stupid, because then at least I know that you're not sleeping at the time being. As I said, it's a funny way of talking to a machine without really understanding if it feels like talking to the wall. Very good. So, how do you stay ahead? We just kind of like look into a few ways. So the way we are looking at kind of like how can we make sure that we can stay kind of like ahead of the pack and take advantage of these changes that going forward. But first of all, more or less, we believe that kind of like we should really start looking at kind of how can we build our brand online. Just run faster. Yes, exactly. I thought you would say, yeah, I need to run faster. No, obviously running faster is a good strategy. And one thing is kind of like what we're looking here is really kind of like building online brands. So how do you use these interactive possibilities of building a brand? Obviously, there are still reasons to use kind of like print TV and so on, but increasingly we see that brands today are built through various kind of digital media. Capture all demand that there is. The old way more is kind of like was you're trying to interact and interrupt your consumers, your clients as much as possible, and trying to get new clients. The new world is more as kind of like a demand-driven world. So you should make sure that every time someone is looking for you, you should be there and at that time available and more or less kind of present for them. It would be stupid not if someone raise up their hand and say, hey, I'm interested. You should absolutely make sure that you more or less kind of like are there to be able to kind of like offer your service at that time. Convert visitors into customers. In the old world, more or less kind of like we had a lot of ways of already interacting with the client. However, the question today is kind of like how can we make them more as kind of like customers immediately and conversions. How do we convert that whole data set that we have around conversions and so on is something that our best clients really carefully look into and trying to optimize all the time. So don't just advertise, but look at kind of like how can you more or less kind of like make sure that you move the client through the funnel as quickly as possible to more or less sign a deal. Operate state-of-the-art technology. I think almost any company today need to make sure that they hire good people to more or less kind of like be able to take care of good technologies. In today's world, more or less, we should be testing all the time. We should be looking at what's the new technologies that we can use for a business all the time. I have a big client here in Germany called Otto. That's also actually a very active one also in Russia. And they've said that they moved from a catalog-based first to an e-commerce space, and now they're moving into becoming a technology company. I think this is the transformation that a lot of these clients need to go through in order to be competitive in this new world. Don't you think that you will lose a certain amount of clients if you move fast from old world to the new one? My feeling is obviously yes. However, at the same time, my feeling is that many times, kind of like I think my topic here today was also consumer-driven change. And the truth is that a lot of our consumers and our users actually are moving much faster into the new world than our companies are doing. And I would say this is exactly the same for the Russian or the Eastern European markets as well. I see no reason why they would be slower there. So businesses are usually slower to move than companies. And this is also kind of like fascinating because like. I remember when I started working in a business and they gave me the first computer. It was wonderful because like you had the latest technology there. Today, all these kids that come and interview for us, they have already the latest technology at home. And many times they actually have better technology at home than they have in the businesses. And so this is kind of like it's a huge change in that sense. That it's like you would expect that the businesses are the ones that are driving this change. It's not that case. It's very much the consumers that are driving this change, and that's why also so many businesses are struggling as we're moving forward. At the same time, I do think also that you can kind of like really find advantages for your business if you kind of like start looking at kind of like how can you operate state-of-the-art technology. How will go further in your opinion, any forecast in this global change? What do you mean? Which change? Technological change, Anna? I'll get back to when Anna replies more to that. I will get back to your question. So, as you explained regarding kind of the interview. Oh, technologies. Yeah, I do think kind of like technologies are becoming more accessible to everyone, and as we're moving more into cloud-based technologies in general, we are seeing a lot of kind of like coming onto the same playing field there, and businesses are investing heavily into moving in that space as well. So I think kind of like we're probably seeing businesses more as picking up also on this field, and they actually have to. Because it's actually quite desperate how things are going. And plus, they're also getting more cheaper all the time. Larissa, I'm okay. You know, like what I can do is that I can also kind of like park some questions. So feel free to put the questions in there. If I don't respond immediately, let's park them into later. We should be more flexible and wise. Absolutely. But let me just talk a little bit about best-in-class organization and people. I think this is a big challenge more as kind of like is that there will be a bigger, and we see this in Silicon Valley very, very clear, but we see this also in other areas today very much. It's kind of like there is a huge war of talent for the best people. You're obviously all people that are really kind of like developing yourself and looking into kind of like how can you understand the world better, which is exactly the type of people that these organizations are looking for. People that are able to change and being flexible in this change. I quite often say that, for example, we go to Google, we can't hire people like a traditional company does, so that we say, hey, you're good at doing what you're doing, come and do the same thing for us. Because our world has changed in 2 years already completely. So the question is more kind of like how can we more or less help, how can we have such people that they more or less understand and can learn fast in what they're doing. When I'm at universities talking, I usually tell the kids there and that, you know what, it's like everything you learn today, or you learn here is something that you have no use of. The thing you have use of is how do you learn faster, and kind of like, so the best thing is kind of like trying to learn how to learn, because that's absolutely key for the people going forward. So how to stay ahead? Build an online brand. Think of kind of like how can we build this brand online. Make sure we capture all demand that there is when we're moving forward. Looking at how can we convert our visitors immediately into customers as quickly as possible, because at that moment obviously then the revenue will start coming in. The technology piece we discussed already in extent, and organization and people will be critical and is already critical today in many ways. So kind of like it's a competition between people and organizations, and because the truth is, for example, we look at Google or we look at a Yahoo or a Yandex and so on. The truth is that there isn't much more than the people that are there. Yes, we have some data centers and so on. The truth is though that over time you could kind of like invest in all of that. So the question is like, how do we make sure that we find, keep, and develop the best people in the world, and through that find competitive advantages. A few rules from Google. This is a picture that I took myself from our California headquarters last fall when I was last time there. These are G bikes, latest technology. I'm just kidding. These are bikes that you can drive around at the campus with. So nice and colorful bikes going forward there. What we really do is that we're trying to kind of like focus on the user whenever it is. So we're also willing to kind of like do sacrifices for our advertisers, for example, if we feel that that's not the right thing for the user. Because at the end of the day, without the users, we will have nothing. If we don't have the users, we don't have revenue, we don't have advertisers, we don't have clients, we have nothing. So I think kind of like it's for many businesses today is really good to understand kind of like, so who are your users or your customers, and really make sure that you concentrate on them. Learn from mistakes. We have a lot of different kind of like ways of looking into this, and the old way of saying at Silicon Valley is more or less kind of like is that fail fast. We also believe that kind of like we cannot find all the ways of dealing different things fast enough if we don't move on. So that's kind of like we need to also value and also reward mistakes. So obviously you don't want people to do many mistakes, but kind of like or the same mistakes over and over again. But at least kind of like it helps us kind of like move on very quickly and very rapidly. And end of the day, more it's kind of like fast is better than slow. This is one of the mantras that our founders all the time say, and that is very much the truth. So kind of like move now. It could be, if you don't move now, that it will be very, very expensive, or it could even be detrimental for any business. So launch and iterate is a way for us to say kind of like that. Let's launch things even if they aren't perfect, and then we can move and change them going forward as we move on. That was about kind of like the material I had more or less kind of like going on here. Now I would be really happy if you could get good interactivity going on here, and you get good questions. So Google's mission and vision more or less is the vision very much is to use technologies to solve and change big problems in the world. We believe that through technologies we can, so for example, self-driving cars. We believe that through technology we can actually make driving much safer and much more efficient than it is today, and so everything we do more or less kind of like uses either a lot of processor power, a lot of memory, or kind of like connected devices, and through that we believe that we can really move on, and kind of like the way we believe also very strongly that you can do business without being evil. Slide 16. In this second deck, the picture from Google. These are our bikes. 15. Okay. Yes. How to stay ahead? Questions, my friends. Yeah, you know what? The question: what are the rules? I think that partly they're not changed at the same time. It kind of like the speed makes things very different. So and also kind of like the connectivity, that we are always connected. So yes, kind of like the basic rules are probably the same. At the same time, our users change very rapidly and very quickly. So we just have to make sure that we keep up with our consumers, with our users. Any chance to say, what I would then do is that I'll send it to the faculty with kind of like as a PDF, and then kind of like you can get it from there. I think that probably would be the best way to move on. What products are now available for small business and entrepreneurs? Obviously, kind of like what we believe very strongly is in the cloud. We believe that we can do much more efficient and better and stronger products when they're in the cloud. So a lot of kind of like, if you go into looking at Google for Enterprises with the Google Apps, with Gtalk, video, collaboration tools like Docs and so on. That is definitely one of those ways of moving forward, and we believe very strongly in that way. You're well welcome, Sergey. I'm really happy that you were here. The glass video is going on. It's not here with me though, so I suppose that must be coming from somewhere else, that video currently. Or could it be here with me? Let me just check. No, it's not. And it's not here too, so nope. I'm sorry, I can't help you. I hope someone, if there is someone else who's more or less kind of like can help me then if it seems like we're not. Did I miss the slides now? Yeah. Is any business that will be less affected with such changes? Wow. I think I like moving on into a world of more kind of like Internet of Things. I usually like going to cocktail parties and then I ask people, well, say me a product and I'll tell you why it's better when it's connected. I think kind of like it's very difficult to see areas where this change wouldn't be kind of like moving on. So let me just. I don't think it was this. So at the same time, you have to remember that what actually computers do is that they gather information, they more or less kind of like analyze information, they deliver information, and they kind of like we can kind of like use information different ways. So it's really a question of all the information. So every business that has some kind of information in it will probably be affected. No music, very good. Any practical recommendation on how to change marketing for a B2B by using megatrends you mentioned? Absolutely. I think kind of like there are a few, first of all, kind of like for B2B, first of all, more gather all the demand that there is already. So B2B buyers are not very different from any other buyers. So the first thing they usually do is that they go to a search engine. It could be us, or it could be Yandex, or it could be someone else. So make sure that all that more or less kind of like demand that comes from there, you more or less take care of. Two, there are very good ways of targeting specific audiences today. So kind of like take advantage of those targeting methods. So it's like there could be specific blogs, there could be specific ways of looking at different things. So more it's kind of like make sure that you kind of like you're present there when people start using and doing these changes. And thirdly, I think kind of like that customer service is a huge part of any business today. And if you want to grow fast, you have to make sure that you more or less kind of like take very, very good care of your present clients. So kind of like how can you use customer service? It could be that it's like you could connect with someone in a remote kind of like it's like if you sell motors. Engines, you could connect with that through mobiles or different devices and so on. So just kind of like how can you more or less take care of that all that information? Make sense? Was that helpful? So all demand. Make sure you're there where people are kind of like doing research on you, and use more or less kind of like these new devices strongly for customer service. How do B2B is different from B2C in Russia? Well, to be honest, even B2B, the buyers are human beings. So I don't think the difference in itself is so huge. Obviously, the set of tools you use for B2B, it's no use, for example, if you have a very narrow kind of like a scope or a client base, to then, for example, go big time in buying a masthead on YouTube, for example. It's much better that you more as kind of like you then more specifically target just those that are interested in your product. Well, my email address is on the screen. There's also my Google Plus account, as well as if you feel free to follow me on Twitter. They're all on the last slide, and let me see what we can do with kind of like the presentation. If I can put it into PDF and make sure that we'll send over to you. Any question regarding big data and your vision on any forecast from you would be very much appreciated. Yes, big data. First of all, kind of like I think it's a big buzzword. As I see it. The question is kind of like how can you kind of like we take a lot of data and then we kind of like do an analysis, kind of like throughout the data. That's how I see big data today. And I think every company today there's a possibility today, first of all, that we can gather all information thanks to memory capacity being so cheap. So the more information you have, make sure that you actually collect it all. And then you just need good people with SQL skills to more do deep analysis on understanding and pulling out insights from that data. Make sense? Do I have an FB account? Absolutely, I have a Facebook account. I also have as you see here, a Twitter account. My Facebook account I haven't opened up completely, so you won't find that as publicly as you do this to other accounts. How can Google help you to collect this data? I think there are a few ways. First of all, I think they're you have to look at different kind of data. First of all, there's the data that is data that you own, data in your CRM systems, data in your advertising accounts and so on. That's obviously data that we don't have. Then we have more we can help you. Well, you don't take analytics into consideration. I think analytics is a fantastic product, and there's a lot of data you can collect from there. And then more there's third-party data that you could bring in there. And we have a service called Google. What is it called? I forget now, but more where you can more collect this data into one database, and you can use our servers to more run those analysis, and through that you can use actually a big set of data more to do a forecast. Any focus regarding trends and consumer behavior? I think one tool that I really love is Google Insights. If you haven't had the chance to take a look at it, it's called Google Trends nowadays. So look into Google Trends. There you can more or less do different analysis on keywords when people are looking for them and so on. And this is, for example, something that's used, for flu trends currently. So we can pretty accurately predict, for example, how influenzas and flus are moving through different areas. Google, yes. Anything else, my friends? Has this been helpful for you? I love it seeing just the chat here. How do different consumer behavior? It's a good question. I think the point is that we don't quite understand ourselves even now, what's the purpose of different devices. But we do see that it's moving very very much so that people use different devices for even the same queries. So I think that's also something that through the data that you just should be testing and evaluating. Wow, there was now suddenly a lot of movement in my chat. Well, thank you very much, all of you, and thank you very much for being so active here on the chat. That made this very very enjoyable and very very helpful also for me, because otherwise it would have felt like just talking to a stupid computer. So it's been great. And feel free to drop me a line or as I said, follow me on Twitter or so that we can or even on Google Plus, and we can connect even better going forward. Cool. If I don't see any further questions here, then I would say thank you to all of you. It's very very exciting, and have a good winter, and good luck with your studies. And if you ever feel like you would like to work in technology, feel free to look at our jobs page at look for Google Jobs. We're looking at hiring good people all the time across the world. Thank you very much. I think I'm also off now, so have a good going on. Thank you, Olga. You're charming yourself.